thank you very much for being here for this weekly format of interaction. I have two announcements to make, following which I will be open to responding to any questions that you may want to ask on those two aspects or on anything else. The sequence will be in terms of the announcements I make and then anything else. Well, the first announcement that I have to make is that the External Affairs Minister this evening will be meeting the Foreign Minister of Uganda, Mr. Sam Kutesa. Mr. Kutesa is the first African Foreign Minister who is meeting with the External Affairs Minister since she took over as the External Affairs Minister of India a couple of months ago. Now, India and Uganda have excellent bilateral relations. India is the largest trade partner of Uganda. The trade balance between the two is, the trade turnover between the two is approximately 1.2 billion. The balance of trade is tilted in favor of India. India is also the largest investor in Uganda. In terms of investments during the last decade, approximately $1 billion investments have been poured in by either Indian companies or companies owned by persons of Indian origin who are resident in Uganda. We have a very robust relationship in terms of our development partnership cooperation. Approximately more than 1,000 students from Uganda study in India, of whom 150 are on Government of India related scholarships, either through the ITEC or through the ICCR. Uganda is also part of the Pan-African E-Network project. A hospital in Uganda, in Kampala, is linked with 11 important and famous hospitals in India, where the doctors can directly contact each other and gain from sharing of experiences and knowledge. India is setting up a food processing business incubation center in Uganda, and is also working on an international business and management studies center, for which the implementing agency is the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade in Delhi. This institution is under the India-Africa Forum India-Africa Forum Summit. Perhaps some of you are not aware that the Foreign Minister of Uganda is also going to be the next President of the United Nations General Assembly. That is the 69th United Nations General Assembly in September. In this capacity, he will be presiding over the functioning of the General Assembly all through the next year. And you are aware that there are areas of interest for India which are covered under the UN General Assembly. These include the United Nations Security Council expansion, Convention on Terrorism, also Sustainable Development Goals, and climate change. It is normal that during the course of their conversation, the two foreign ministers are also likely to discuss these areas of multilateral cooperation. That's what I have in terms of the first announcement. The second announcement relates to United States Secretary of State John Kerry's visit to India. He will be arriving in New Delhi in a couple of hours. This is the first high-level interaction that India and the United States have at the political level. You are aware that External Affairs Minister and Secretary Kerry will be presiding over the strategic dialogue tomorrow. This dialogue will be held tomorrow afternoon. It will start at 3 p.m. in a restricted format for an hour. Subsequent to that, there will be delegation level discussions over a 2-hour period, following which both the ministers will have a press interaction, and at the end of this interaction they will also have a working dinner. The focus areas for the strategic dialogue are security, energy, trade and investment, science and technology, human resources development, and regional and international issues. Now, the Indo-US relationship is in a stage of stable and mature growth. The two ministers are expected to explore new frontiers and initiatives to further promote the bilateral relations. The focus will be on enhancing convergence between the two countries in various areas on a wide canvas of partnership that the two largest democracies in the world enjoy. You are also aware that the Prime Minister of India is scheduled to visit the United States later during the year, and therefore the opportunity will be taken to explore transformative initiatives that can move the Indo-US relations to the next level. In this context, Senator Kerry will also meet the Prime Minister tomorrow, on the 1st. He is also scheduled to meet the Finance and Defense Minister and the National Security Advisor. We will provide you with an advisory by later in the evening. I think I will stop at that stage and answer questions on either of these two issues or on anything else that you would like to know. Yes. Mr. Venkat Narayan?
Akbar, what are the chances of a resolution on the expansion of the UN Security Council being introduced in the UNGA this September? Thanks.
I think the target that we have set for ourselves is the 70th session of the United Nations General Assembly, which starts next September. So the 69th session will be largely to drive this process forward, because those of you who are following this know that this is a process which is ongoing for years, in fact for decades. So if we have to bring this to a conclusion, efforts for a year later will need to start now. Pardon? Yeah, well, just 1 minute. Anybody else questions? Yes, sir.
At this meeting, are you likely to fix the details of Mr. Modi's visit to Washington?
Yes, I did indicate to you that this will be an opportunity to exchange ideas so that the US and India can work towards transformative initiatives during Prime Minister Modi's visit to Washington. This is a process, it's not an event. So the process will certainly begin. And as I said, it's not an event that will culminate tomorrow. We will work towards a successful visit for the Prime Minister, in which we hope to have transformative ideas on the table to take the relationship to the next level. Yes, ma'am. 1 minute.
सर, नई सरकार के बाद जॉन केरी की ये पहली मीटिंग है पीएम के साथ। उन्होंने कल तारीफ भी की है नई सरकार की बहुत ज्यादा। कॉमर्स मिनिस्टर भी आ रहे हैं, ऐसे में क्या कुछ नई पॉलिसीज के साथ आ रहे हैं नए रिश्तों को डेवलप करने के लिए?
कहा तो उन्होंने यही है, अब देखते हैं आगे क्या होता है। अभी तो आना चाहिए वो। उन्होंने ये कहा तो है, आपने भी सुना है और मैंने भी सुना है। Yes, enjoy.
Sir, during the discussions, is India likely to bring up the issues that relate to PRISM and other modes of espionage that we know about?
I don't know what you know exactly about, but that said, I mentioned to you security is a matter on the agenda, and this includes cyber security. You are also aware that there is considerable disquiet in India about the authorizations provided to American agencies in terms of contravening the privacy of individuals, entities, and the Government of India. So obviously, if there is considerable disquiet, these issues are likely to figure without me getting into a detailed elaboration of what. Yes, ma'am.
Are Indian officials working with or talking to US officials for a possible solution or resolution to the WTO impasse?
In the context of the Government of India, WTO matters are handled by the Ministry of Commerce, and they would be the best to respond to your question. Yes, Gaurav?
Prime Minister Modi had indicated he wanted a result-oriented trip to the United States. What are the key result areas that you're likely to focus on? Is this visit likely to focus on, sir?
Gaurav, I said we would begin the process of exploring initiatives. And I also said that tomorrow is not a one-off. This process of trying to explore initiatives is not a one-off event. We have between tomorrow at the end of the day and the likely visit of the Prime Minister towards the end of September, several other opportunities which will arise. We will harness every opportunity to ensure that the visit of the Prime Minister is result-oriented and will help in having a transformative initiative which both India and the US can work together on. Yes, sir.
Sir, I believe there was a proposal by the MEA regarding import of chicken from US to India. So, seeing the WTO dispute on that ongoing between India and US, will that be
import of what?
Chicken.
Chicken? I didn't know MEA was into chickens. This is news to me. I must confess this is news to me. Yeah, Anchal?
Sir, is Hafiz Saeed going to be brought up in the meeting?
Hafiz Saeed is being brought here? We'd love that.
Our concerns as far as, he's still roaming around freely.
I would not get into the specific details of the meeting, but I have told you security is an issue. Along with cyber security, what the US terms as homeland security will be an issue. And every aspect that impinges on our security matters where the US can assist us will be raised. Yes, sir. Just a minute. The mic will come.
Mr. Akbar, you just referred that the two sides will also explore transformative initiatives when Prime Minister Modi visits the US. Could you please spell out what do these transformative initiatives refer to? And my second question is...
One question. That's it. No, one question. That's it. One question always. I said there would be transformative initiatives that will be explored, not transparent initiatives that will be explored. Yeah. Anyone? Yes, sir. Ranjit? Not transparent. I said transformative. And for initiatives to succeed, they require some space for us to at least engage in them. Before we engage, before we explore, we can't transparently tell you that. So please be patient and we'll work towards it. This is as I said, this is a exercise which is in progress. And don't expect us to tell you before the outcomes what that exercise will lead to. I've told you in broad terms that we are looking at transformative initiatives in a longer term perspective. This is a process. And that process is going to begin tomorrow. Don't expect me to tell you today. Thank you. I hope you understand that. Yes, sir. Yeah. Ranjit?
Yeah. Will Indian leaders seek commitment from US Foreign Secretary to discontinue all snooping activities of Indian leaders, of Indian government also?
I have explained to you at some length that there is disquiet in the country on this matter. Obviously, Indian leaders are reflecting Indian public concerns. Anyone else? If not on this, yes. Anything else? Yes. Smita?
I don't know. I think you'll hold a separate briefing maybe on Nepal, but if you could shed some light at this point in time on the Prime Minister's agenda, really, is he also expected to go to Lumbini other than the Pashupatinath temple visit?
We will have a full-fledged briefing on that later during the week, but my understanding is that the visit is to Kathmandu and back. Anyone else on anything else? Yes, sir.
Sir, today you have any updates related to Libya crisis?
Yes, I can share with you some information. The External Affairs Minister today chaired a high-level meeting on the process that is set in motion with the advisory given to Indian nationals to leave Libya at the earliest. Number one, a decision has been taken and 6 officials have been deployed in Libya and Tunisia. Number two, the External Affairs Minister has asked for funds to be transferred from the Indian Community Welfare Fund in the United Arab Emirates for use by Indian nationals in difficult circumstances in Libya. Number three, the External Affairs Minister has directed the Ministry of External Affairs to deploy a senior official of the rank of Joint Secretary to help in facilitating the return of Indian nationals from Libya to India. This official will reach Libya shortly. Number four, the Ambassador of India has informed that 450 companies in Libya who employ 450 Indian nationals in the western part of Libya have agreed to send back their Indian employees at their own cost. Number five, tickets are being purchased for those Indian nationals who have evinced an interest in returning to India. At this stage, we have confirmations of 58 nurses who would like to return to India. We are working with others to ensure that all of them leave their places of work because we do not feel that the circumstances warrant their continuance at this stage. Number six, options are being looked at for the move of Indian nationals in the eastern part of Libya, that is Benghazi and the other side, to return to India. Number seven, we hope that the first lot of Indian nationals will start returning to India before the weekend. We will keep you informed of how this process proceeds. The Indian ambassador in Libya has been able to obtain from the Ministry of Labour a permission for the departure of Indian nationals. You have to understand that there is an exit permit in place in Libya, so departure formalities will take some time as they have taken in Iraq too. However, our mission will work to ensure that there is an expeditious movement of people from Libya should they want to return to India, and this is based on our advice that they should return to India. I think that should sum up the outcome of today's meeting that the External Affairs Minister had. Yes, Maya?
I actually wanted to take your attention to the Middle East, Gaza. There's been a third UN school that's been attacked in shelling. They say that it was being used as a shelter. Just want to know where we stand on what's going on in that conflict right now.
Maya, the last Indian statement encapsulates it all, and that was made by our a permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva. This is our approach to the humanitarian issues there, and our final and definitive statement on that rests with that approach. It hasn't changed. Yes, ma'am.
But this is on Libya. Like Iraq, a lot of our people there who are employed with various companies are facing salary issues and also contractual issues. So are the ministry or our mission officers dealing with that issue?
Madam Mukherjee, you're right that there are issues in the entire Middle East relating to contracts. This is neither the time nor the place to try and rectify a situation of contractual, a template regarding contractual disputes. That said, we will try our best to ensure that departure of Indian nationals, these may entail contractual obligations. We will have to work our way through it. But this is an ongoing issue which we have with various countries in West Asia. It is not possible in a situation of crisis to rework the formats at this stage. But this is an ongoing process. The Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs is regularly working on this. But please do not expect outcomes overnight on this. These are difficult and complex issues that will require engagement over a longer term to try and resolve. Yes, Amrita?
Akbar, any update you can share on the Indians in Iraq, especially those in Mosul, or since the last couple of weeks, those who've been brought back?
The last update remains what it is in terms of the External Affairs Minister making a statement in Parliament on that recently. That's where we are. I have no further additional information that will add to your understanding of that situation. Anyone else on anything? Yes, Ms. Talwar.
Could you please repeat the name of the body in UAE that you said is transferring funds for the benefit of Indian nationals in Libya? Thank you.
This is not a body. This is what's called the Indian Community Welfare Fund, or ICWF. This is available. This fund is available in all our missions all over the world. And given that in several of our Gulf missions, the funds are fairly substantial, we sometimes, with the approval of the External Affairs Minister, who also happens to be the Minister for Overseas Indian Affairs, which monitors and regulates this fund, utilize this for Indians facing difficulties elsewhere. So, given that the UAE had some funds which can be spared, the External Affairs Ministers approved the usage of some of those funds for assisting Indian nationals in Libya. If there are no further questions, yes, sir.
So the Supreme Court had asked the Election Commission to form a committee and give the views on voting rights for NRIs. Have they taken your opinion on that?
I do not know offhand to this thing. I would check of what was asked. I do not know whether it is us or the Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs which is actually coordinating this. I would think that it would be the Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs who handles these aspects of Indians overseas. If there are no further questions, thank you very much for being here this afternoon.